What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is your weekly reactor hunt video for the First Descendant. I do one of these every week on Tuesday because every week on Tuesday they reset where reactor combinations drop in the game world and from which missions they drop, and that allows you to target farm these specific configurations of reactors by doing some activities in the game which have a higher than normal drop rate for reactors, thereby hopefully giving you a chance of getting a best in slot reactor for the Descendant of your choice. Now this video covers from the 18th of March until the 25th of March, and how I compile this information is I have a list like this, which is every single Descendant in the game right now with their best in slot reactor as it is considered by the community, and then that allows me to change it into a list like this, which shows us that we can actually combine farm for certain Descendants, since certain Descendants use the same reactor combination. Good example being Izamo and Lepic, both using fire and tech, which means when you're farming for Izamo you are also farming for Lepic. And in the grand scheme of things, this is a really good thing because it does cut down on the reactor farming that you need to do. So this week there's a ton of farms, so we're going to go ahead and start off with Serena, who is the new Descendant. Her reactor of choice is fire and singular, and that's if you specifically want to deal damage with her abilities, her skills. You will be looking for a fire singular reactor. Now the farm this week is actually all the way over in Fortress, and you have an area here called Converter Facility. Converter Facility has a outpost in it that you can do in what is known as the Valby method. I have a video for this exact build, but essentially all it is you don't juice up the size of your water. You basically just juice up the damage, but just enough so that it can one tap all of the enemies that spawn, but not the boss if he accidentally drunkenly stumbles over into your AoE. That being said, that allows you to kill the reactors and then stay on the outside of the outpost, essentially spending 2 minutes and 40 seconds just farming up all of the reactors that drop out of these enemies that you kill. This gives you a decent amount of character XP, weapon proficiency, gold Kuiper, but also the aforementioned reactors, and hopefully you get a decent one for Serena. Next up we have Ajax, Kyle, and Luna. We haven't seen this farm in a while, I think more than like 3 weeks or something like that. So if you're looking for the right reactor for these three Descendants, again that's Ajax, Kyle, and Luna, this is a good week for you because materialized mechanics is the reactor that you're looking for, which is of course non-attribute and tech. Now basically this means that it's also specifically for the buff version of Luna. So Luna can of course be built into a sort of like a buff machine for her allies, or into an AoE DPS machine. This is for the buff variant of that. So if you want to play a Luna that basically juices up her teammates, then this is the kind of reactor that you're looking for. Now this week the farm that you want for this is in Agna Desert. And there's an area here called Mirage Stone. Now, Mirage Stone also has an outpost in it, which can be done in the Valby method, which gives you 2 minutes and 40 seconds to soak up all the reactors as you stay on the outside, essentially killing all the enemies. Remember that you can use your gun to pull the boss out of your stream if he wanders in there, or her fourth ability can also bubble and pull him out if you want. But basically you want to make sure that the boss stays alive so that you can kill all of the add-ons that spawn, and there's some reactors falling out of them, as well as gold, Kuiper, weapon proficiency, XP, you get it. Hopefully you can get some decent reactors for Ajax, Kyle, and Luna. Next up we have the Electric Descendants, and it's a pretty good week for Electric in general. There's pretty much a farm for every single Electric Descendant out there. First up we have Bunny and Ines. So Ines, you can build her essentially in two ways, but this is for if you want to build her into singular. But mostly people play her into tech because that's her best mod. I just mention it because you could be one of those fringe weird people that want to build Ines into singular, and you could have at it. But more specifically, the reason why you would want a tingling singularity reactor is for Bunny. Bunny's best in slot reactor is this combination, so electric singular, because it juices up her AoE. And we have a very decent farm for that this week as well, which happens to be back in Sterile Land. We have this area here called Rockfall. Rockfall has a mission in it called Anticipated Ambush Point, which is perfect for a Descendant like Bunny or any other AoE Descendant that you might have. Essentially, you just go up into this area here. There's a couple of groups of enemies that you kill. There's a yellow bar. You get the message. You blow them all away. You get your reactors, and you rinse, repeat, start over. This is one of those. This is kind of true for almost every single one of these farms, but these are better if you do them in groups. You got someone working the button at the bottom while you have someone doing the killing at the top. Then you can essentially just kind of like double or triple up on your speed, And if you have a dog, the guy that's at the bottom, the dog should, with big enough radius, be picking up all the stuff. Otherwise, every couple of button presses, just go on and wander up there and get your ill-gotten loot. That being said, hopefully you get some good reactors for Bunny. Sharon's up next, the next electric descendant. It's a good farm for her this week as well. She uses a different kind of electric reactor though. She uses tingling mixture, which is electric and fusion. So if you are a Sharen main and you're looking for a decent farm this week for her, I got you covered. You're going to go over to Sterile Land, you're going to go to Repository, and there's a mission here called Kuiper Mine. Kuiper Mine is one of these where you essentially start the mission, then go in, press a button, and then 7 mines activate that you have to stand in them for, I guess it's 15 seconds or something, and disarm them, and after you've disarmed all 7 mines, the mission is over. We're not going to do any of that shit. We're not going to be dismantling any of the mines. We're just going to stay in this middle area here. If you're using an AoE descendant, you can literally just stay in the middle here and all the enemies will try to bomb rush you and you'll kill them. Your dog will pick up everything, or you can dip out and pick the stuff up if for some reason you do not have a 4-legged friend with you. That being said, you can spend the entire 5 minutes that this mission takes to fail, to essentially just kill everything here and pick up everything that they drop. And amidst all of that will be a bunch of reactors and hopefully a decent Sharen reactor for you. Then if you want to build the actual right version of Ines, which uses a tech reactor, then that's also something that you can farm this week. Like I said, it's a really good week for electric descendants. So if you want to build the version of Ines that uses Time of the Hunting Hounds, which is pretty much her best transcendent mod, then you will want to be farming a tingling mechanics reactor, because that actually changes all 4 of your skills to tech skills, which means this is the better reactor for you to use. So that's electric and tech. So if you want to farm that this week, good news. You can go over to Fortress. There is an area called Defense Line. Defense Line has an outpost in it. You already know what I'm going to say. It's Valby method time. Now, this is the original, the OG Valby method. So this one is a little bit different. It's a very big outpost. So you don't really have a problem with the boss wandering into your stream, first of all. And secondly, he's also a fucking tough bastard. So he's not necessarily going to go down that easy. So you might want to juice up your stream a little bit specifically for this outpost, just to make it a bit bigger and catch more enemies. This outpost has caught like at least 2 fucking nerfs though, because this farm used to be the bejizzle. And so unfortunately this is not as good as any of the other Valby farms, the outposts, but nonetheless this in this particular area in Defense Line is still your best bet at getting a decent amount of reactors to drop, and hopefully you can get one for Ines, I guess, before they nerf her in April. Then we also have everybody's favorite poison lady. So Freyna is, of course, who I'm referring to. There's a decent farm for her this week as well. Her reactor of choice is Toxic Mechanics, which is Toxic Tech. That means that all of her abilities use this combination, and therefore, or at least all of her damaging dealing abilities use this combination, and therefore you would want this reactor above all else. And this week we got a good farm for that as well. It's in White Knight Gulch, and there is a mission here called Fortress Outskirts, which sits in this shipment base area here. So Fortress Outskirts is like an OG busted ass good mission that was really good for XP farming. What you essentially do is you start the mission, you go all the way up to the top. There's 4 pads that you can activate. You don't activate them in like one at a time. You activate all 4 at once, and then you essentially just run clockwise or counterclockwise in the area, essentially killing all the enemies that spawn. By the time that all 4 pads are captured, you don't even bother finishing the mission. Just quit the mission and then run back down and reactivate and go. So this is a pretty decent farm as well, just from a weapon perspective. Well, weapon proficiency, gold, Kuiper, character XP, but also just a shitload of enemies. And when you kill a shitload of enemies, you guessed it, a shitload of reactors will drop. So hopefully you get something decent for Freyna. And then our last descendant farm belongs to Viessa. Viessa is cold, and or rather chill and tech. If you are specifically building her into something like cold-bloodedness, of course you could also build her into absolute zero. Absolute zero requires a different reactor combination, and in that case you're actually using something called like chill singular. But if you are playing cold-bloodedness Viessa, which I do think is still a thing, I haven't played Viessa in a while, but I hear it's the shit. The point is, if you're looking to build cold-bloodedness Viessa, you want tech, because tech is what affects her final ability, her 4th ability's damage. So it's the best reactor for her. That means it's chill and tech, as I said, frozen mechanics. And if you are looking for a good farm for that this week, I got you. Echo Swamp, you're going to go all the way down to the Abandoned Zone. The Abandoned Zone has a mission in it called Environment Contamination Zone. This is a mission that was made popular by Bunny at the beginning of the game, I would say, because it's very, very efficient. It's essentially a little sequence that you run, or a little circuit rather. And this has a bunch of enemies that spawn in it, as well as a couple of yellow bars at the end. It has decent weapon proficiency, gold, Kuiper, character XP, and all that. And since there's a big amount of enemies, you'll also see a big amount of reactors. This is another one of those missions that benefits from running with more than one player, because you can kind of like work the sequence out in a way, or the circuit rather, that one person's pressing the button while the other one is already running to go do the kills, and then when the other one is busy coming out, you can essentially then already start running in and start your abilities while the last person essentially hits the button. So you can work out a nice little rhythm there, and you can get this mission done super fast and very efficiently, and hopefully get a shitload of these reactors to drop. Then I do also make a point of giving shout outs to specific external component combinations that could also be dropping during the week. This of course allows you to target farm external components, like gold external components with potentially gold substats, which can allow you to compile essentially a farm set for yourself. This week there are two farms that I'd like to mention. Firstly, memory external components has Vermilion Waste, which is all the way over in Agni Desert. This has an outpost, and you know what I'm gonna say, guys. You have to drink like a shot every time I say the Valby method during this video. You'll be lit. But yes, you can do this outpost with the Valby method, as I've explained with the previous farms. Essentially, this is a very small one. You got to watch what you do. Again, keep your head on a swivel. Essentially, pull the boss out of your streams if they do wander into it. And remember that you can use a fourth ability to kind of like pull the enemy into it. It has a like suck zone that you can pull enemies in. You can use that on the boss if the boss does not want to cooperate. So hopefully you get a bunch of these memory modules to drop there. Basically, they drop in the place of reactors that would drop from this particular activity. You might still see one or two generic reactors that also drop, but the majority of the components that drop will be these memory components, and hopefully something that can help you. Secondly, we have processors, which also has a decent farm this week. So classified areas over here, usually I would recommend people to run a large nuclear reactor, but the outpost in this area is far more lucrative if you are using Valby, because Valby can now, or not now, it's been the case for a while, but she can jump with her third ability, her ski ability, which she couldn't do for like the longest time. So because she can jump, you can do this outpost farm. It's a little bit weird and the space is kind of like confined and so on, but you can essentially just go on the outside, you'll jump over the crates and everything, and you can farm this in the Valby method, lo and behold. And again, making sure that the boss doesn't wander into your goo, and you can hopefully get a decent amount of these processors to drop, and something that is useful to you. And that's going to be it for the video and all the farms. Pretty full week, bunch of different reactor combinations that can be farmed from really lucrative missions. Of course, I will also mention that the new Sigma activity drops a fuck ton of reactors as well. Plus, you're getting a whole bunch of other things from doing that activity, like, for example, just Arc Tech, you know, or Arc board, whatever, XP, as well as like weapons, and you're getting external components and all of that shit. So if you aren't specifically looking for a very specific reactor, I would just say to just run the crap out of Sigma. I've gotten a bunch of really good reactors from this activity that just randomly dropped. You never know, you might get lucky while you're doing the activity, which you in any case need to do to strengthen the power of your Descendant. Other than that, thank you very much for the support. It's been fantastic on the videos. I appreciate every single one of you, and as always, fucking cheers.